when Lu Qingyang slid a copy of the Mingishu Academy admission notice across the table to me. The entire gathering of relatives fell silent. Lu Shisha sat beside him, her eyes rimmed with red, her fingers lightly pressing her lower abdomen as if she had suffered some great injustice. I didn't cry or make a scene. I simply took off the wedding ring from my ring finger, placed it beside the agreement, and casually pulled out the application form at the bottom that bore my name. That night, at the Lu family banquet, 12 dishes were laid out on the table, all of which were Lu Xia's favorites. The steamed sea bass had its bones removed. The red dates nest was kept warm in a porcelain bowl, and even the scallions in the soup had been meticulously picked out. Iseta, the very end with only a bowl of rice that had already gone cold in front of me. My mother-in-law, Ju Huan, saw that I hadn't touched my chopsticks and her face darkened. Shantang, what kind of face are you putting on? Xia is in poor health, so Chengyang pays her a bit more attention. As his wife, can't you even muster that much tolerance? Lu Shi immediately lowered her head. Auntie, please don't blame sister. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come back and I shouldn't have made brother Chenyang feel troubled. As she spoke, her tears fell at just the right moment. Lu Chengyang, sitting beside her, handed her a tissue with a naturalness that suggested he had done it countless times before. I stared at that hand 3 years ago, when I had a fever spiking to 40 degrees Celsius. It was the same hand that brought medicine to my lips, saying, Shantang, from now on, I won't let you face things alone. I believed him then. I believed him so much that I let him drive the Shin family's car, let the Lu family live in the Shin family's old house, and gave the Lu family the annual cooperation slot from the Shin family foundation. I thought that between husband and wife, things shouldn't be too clearly divided. Now I realize that those who don't draw clear lines end up not even knowing where they stand. Lu Qingyang finally looked up at me. Shantang, you've been too emotionally unstable lately. I put down my chopsticks. I'm emotionally unstable. He pushed a document toward me. The cover bore the words, Mingshid, Academy Marriage Cultivation Program, Admission Notice. Some of the relatives at the table couldn't help but laugh. My sister-in-law, Lu Minghu, leaned back in her chair and said lightly, Sister-in-law, don't feel embarrassed. After marriage, learning how to be a wife isn't such a bad thing. My mother-in-law immediately chimed in. Exactly. It's not that the Lu family doesn't want you. We're giving you a chance to improve. Look at you, always so sarcastic and bitter, unable to even tolerate a sick woman like Shisha. I turned to Lu Qingyang. You want to send me to a place like this? He frowned as if I were being unreasonable. It's not an ordinary place. There are psychological counselors and marriage advisors there. Go stay for a month and calm down. Once you learn to respect me and accept Xia, we can talk about the future. The future? I repeated softly. Lu Xia looked up, casting a timid glance at me. Sister, I really won't take your place. It's just that I have nowhere to go right now. Brother Chenyang said that since you're a young lady from the Shin family, you'd understand dignity best. I laughed. Huh. Words were cleverly chosen. Mentioning young lady from the Shin family was like a reminder that if I made a scene, I would be undignified. Sure enough, Lu Qingyang looked at me. Shuntang, don't embarrass me. I said nothing more. I took off the wedding ring from my ring finger and placed it gently on the table. The metal made a soft clink against the porcelain plate. You Juanes. Expression shifted. What do you mean by that? Trying to scare someone? I ignored her, picked up the admission notice and flipped through it page by page. At the very bottom was the application form. In the applicant column was my name, Shunt Dang. The handwriting was meek, the strokes weak and soft, nothing like my own writing. My gaze paused for a second. I pulled out the paper, folded it, and placed it in my handbag. Lu Chunyang saw it and furrowed his brow. What are you doing with that? Keeping it as a souvenir. I stood up. Since you've all arranged it, I'll go. The table fell. Silent for a moment. They probably hadn't expected me to agree so quickly. A flicker of hesitation passed through Lu Chongyen's eyes, but Lu Shi immediately coughed twice, and that hesitation vanished. He stood up. I'll take you. By the time the car pulled up to Mingishu Academy, it was already 9 o'clock in the evening. The place was on the outskirts of the city with a warm yellow sign hanging at the entrance, making it look like a high-end sanatorium. But the gate was iron. All the windows inside were fitted with dense security bars. Lu Chenyang opened the car door for me. Shinong, I hope that, after you come out, you can go back to being the gentle, understanding person you used to be. I looked at him. I was gentle before, because I chose to be. His gaze darkened. Do you have to speak so sharply now? The head mistress came out, with 2 female teachers to greet us. They smiled perfectly. Mr. Lu, rest assured. We will do our best to help. Mrs. Lu adjust her mindset. Many wives don't understand when they first arrive, but they leave grateful for their husband's thoughtfulness. Their husband's thoughtfulness. Hearing those words, a chill suddenly settled in my stomach. One of the teachers reached for my bag. I sidestepped. My personal belongings. I'll handle them myself. The headmistress's smile dimmed slightly. Mrs. Lu, during your stay, we need to uniformly manage communication devices and sharp objects. It's the rule. Lu Chunyang looked at me. Cooperate. I turned off my phone and handed it over. Before handing it over, I lit up the screen and glanced at the automatic transfer reminder. Every 15th of the month, the Shin family's living account transferred 200.000 to the Lu family villa's housekeeper account. Today happened to be the 14th, right in front of them. I canceled the scheduled transfer. Lu Qingyang didn't see it. The head mistress didn't see it. Only I saw the line on the screen. Scheduled transfer canceled successfully. I handed over the phone, turned, and walked through that iron gate. The door closed behind me. A click like the last warning before marriage was locked tight, but I knew from this moment on it wasn't me who was trapped. It was their last shred of dignity. The dormitory had, for beds, white walls, iron lockers, gray curtains. 7 virtues of a good wife was taped to the headboard. First rule: husband is heaven, family is paramount. Second rule: speak little, anger little, be gentle, and manage the household. Third rule: accept the husband's social boundaries. I stood in front of that paper, staring at it for a full 10 seconds. A short-haired woman next to me whispered, "Don't look at it. The more you look, the more disgusting it gets." I turned. She was probably in her early 30s, pale-faced, with a faint red mark on her wrist, like something had been tied around it. She said, "New. Here." I nodded. "Shuntang." She let out a self-deprecating laugh. Shu Chinga, sent here by my husband 19 days ago. I looked at her. She seemed used to it. The reason was I wouldn't add his mother's name to my pre-marriage house. He said I was too suspicious and unfit to be a wife. Her voice was soft, but every word seemed squeezed through her teeth. Just as I was about to speak, the door pushed open. The female instructor stood at the door, clapping her hands. New student to the counseling room. In the counseling room sat 6 women. Each had a piece of paper in front of them, a confession letter. The instructor placed a pen in front of me. Mrs. Liu, your first lesson today is to acknowledge your own problems. I sat down. What problems do I have? The instructor smiled. Your husband wrote it very clearly in the application form. You're overly jealous, controlling, unable to accept your husband's normal social relationships, and you embarrass the elders at family gatherings. I looked at her. Normal social relationships. You mean him bringing his first love home and asking me to give up the master bedroom? The instructor's expression didn't change. See, your aggression is very strong right now. The other women kept their heads down. Someone's fingers were trembling. The instructor pushed the confession letter closer to me. First, write this. I shouldn't take out my anger on my husband because of Miss Louis' existence. I should learn to be tolerant. I picked up the pen. The instructor smiled with satisfaction. The next second, I wrote 4 words on the paper. I won't admit fault. The instructor's smile froze. She reached for the paper, and I pressed it down. Does your facility's policy state that clients can refuse to sign documents against their will? Her face turned cold. Mrs. Liu, you still don't understand your situation. I understand it perfectly. I looked up at her. My husband sent me here with a forged signature. You took his money to reform me. Now you want me to write a confession so he can later prove I'm unstable and at fault in the marriage. The room fell silent. Shuingha stared at me sharply. The instructor's expression shifted completely. What nonsense are you talking about? If it's nonsense, just bring out the original admission application and compare. The instructor took the confession paper and stood up. That's enough for today. Mrs. Liu, you need some time alone to calm down. Time alone meant no dinner. When I was taken back to the dorm, Shu Chinga slipped me half a steamed bun. Don't push it. They'll really starve you. I took the bun but didn't eat it. I asked her, how many people here are here voluntarily? She gave a bitter smile. What do you think? After lights out that night, she finally spoke. Minga Academy was outwardly called a marriage therapy institution, but in reality it exclusively took in disobedient wives, daughters-in-law, and fiancés. Some were sent here for refusing to have a second child, some for discovering their husband's affair, some for refusing to hand over their salary to their mother-in-law. When they arrived, their phones were confiscated, their IDs held, and they were told to say they were here voluntarily for rest. What about the ones who left? Shu Chinga was silent. For a long time, some signed confessions and went back to their lives. Some signed divorce papers. There was one woman after she left. No one ever heard from her again. I clenched the bun in my hand. The next morning during the first class, they made us recite the rules in unison. I didn't. The instructor stood in front of me, her voice low. Mrs. Liu, Mr. Liu has already paid for the highest level of therapy. If you don't cooperate, it will only prolong your Stay. Highest level. I latched onto those words at lunch. I deliberately spilled soup on my clothes and was sent to the laundry room in the back. The laundry room was next to the office. The door wasn't fully closed. I heard someone inside say, Lu Chongyen's case is generous. Besides the personal fee, there's also a sponsorship from the Shan Family Charity Fund. Another person laughed. The Shin family. That's her mother's family, right? Yeah, I heard this. Mrs. Lu has a temper. Mr. Lu specifically asked us to teach her to bow her head. I stood outside the door, my fingers slowly tightening. The Shin Family Charity Fund. That was my mother's legacy. After the wedding, I let Lu Qingyang manage a public interest partnership slot, originally meant for a women's legal aid project. He used it to sponsor this academy. When I returned to the dorm, Shu Qingher saw my expression and knew something was wrong. What did you hear? I said. I heard the first account. She froze. I wrung out the wet clothes and hung them up calmly. Shu Qingga, do you want to get out? Her eyes reened. Yes. Then don't sign anything. I looked at the iron bars outside the window. They teach us to bow our heads. I'm going to lift mine from here. On the third day, I was assigned to clean the storage room. The instructor said it was labor for the soul. I knew it was punishment. The storage room was piled with old desks, broken bed frames, cardboard boxes, and a cabinet full of expired course materials. As I carried a stack of brochures out, I noticed a blue folder at the bottom, the label on the side readle, Therapy Client Fee Details. I didn't grab it immediately. Footsteps approached from outside. I set the brochures down and pretended to tie my shoe. 2 staff members walked past the door. Mrs. Lu still hasn't signed hard as a rock. The director said, a few more days of grinding. And Mr. Lu's side is in a hurry for the results. What's the rush? I heard that Miss Lu from outside is pregnant. My fingers froze. So that's it. It's not just about his first love. Lu, she is pregnant. Lu Chengyang wants me to bow my head, to admit fault, to accept her, maybe even to step aside willingly. When the footsteps faded, I pulled out the blue folder and flipped through a few pages. Quickly, Lu Chongyan's name appeared 3 times. The first was for the admission deposit. The second was for special training fees. The third was Fortune Family Charity Fund Cooperative Sponsorship. The payment purpose was written beautifully: women's marriage, psychological rehabilitation, public welfare project. I almost laughed out loud, using the fund my mother left to help women, to send me to a place that disciplines women. Lu Qingyang really knows how to wield a knife. He knows what I care about, so he stabs there every time. I didn't take the folder. Taking it would be too obvious. I only tore out a photocopied record page, tucked in the back, folded it into a small piece, and stuffed it under my insole when I went out. Jao Jer, the kitchen worker, glanced at me. She was in her 50s, quiet, usually just in charge of serving meals. That night, when she handed me my lunchbox, there was an extra piece of oil paper underneath. Inside the oil paper were half a pencil and a few thin sheets of bill carbon paper. I looked up at her. She didn't look at me, only whispered, "Don't let them find out." I asked, "Why are you helping me?" Her hand paused. "My daughter was here before." That was all she said, and she turned and walked away. That night, Shu Qingga and I hid under the covers, writing down every name, date, and amount we could remember. On the carbon paper, Shu Chinga had a great memory. She remembered the name of everyone who was sent in, who signed a confession, who was forced to apologize to their in-laws, who was made to write a voluntary statement before leaving. I asked her, when your husband sent you in, who signed the admission form? Her eyes reened. He signed for me, too. He said, husband and wife are one, and he could represent me. Husband and wife are one. How beautiful, so beautiful that a man can sign your name with his, trade your freedom for favors and use your silence as evidence. On the 5th day, Lu Shisha came. She wore a white dress, with a beige shawl over her shoulders, looking clean and fragile like she didn't belong here. The director personally escorted her to the reception room. When I was called over, she was sitting on the sofa holding a cup of hot water. Sister, you've lost weight. There was a hint of triumph in her eyes, not well hidden. I sat across from her. What are you here for? She pulled a document out of her bag. Brother Qingyang asked me to bring you something. I glanced at it. A marriage reconciliation agreement. There was a supplementary agreement behind it. The gist was that I admitted to being jealous of Lucia, which had long affected our marital relationship, voluntarily accepted rehabilitation, and agreed to Lu she staying at the Lu residence during her pregnancy with Lu Qingyang taking care of her. At the very bottom was another clause. I voluntarily continued to authorize Lu Qingyang with partial management, authority over the Shin family foundation as a joint marital matter. I laughed. So this was the real point. Lu Shishia looked at me. Sister brother, Qingyang said that as long as you sign, he'll take you out right away. You'll still be Mrs. Lu, and I won't compete with you. Won't compete. I pushed the agreement back. You're already pregnant, and you say you won't compete. Her face changed slightly, but quickly returned to its fragile look. The child is innocent. Of course the child is innocent. I looked at her. But you're not. She gripped the cup tightly. Shuntang, don't go too far, brother. Changyang has been good enough to you. You've held the position of Mrs. Lu for 3 years. You should be satisfied. That was her real tone. I didn't get angry. Lu Shi, do you think I'm nothing? Without Lu Qingyang, she let out a soft laugh. Isn't it true? Who's left in the Shin family now? Your parents are gone. Your relatives have scattered. You're clinging to an empty shell. Do you really still think you're some kind of Aries? I looked at her, and the last trace of coldness in my heart settled to the bottom. She knew about the Shan family. She knew my parents were gone. So she dared. Lu Qingyang dared. The whole Lu family dared because they thought my years of backing down meant I had no way out. Lu, she stood up and placed the agreement in front of me. Sign it. A woman who's too strong ends up unloved. Every extra day you stay here is another day of humiliation. I picked up the agreement. A flicker of light sparked in her eyes. The next second, I tore it down the middle. The sound of paper ripping was crisp and clear. The director's face went pale and Lu Shishia froze. I set the torn pieces back on the table. Tell Lu Chenyang I'm not signing. She sneered. You'll regret this. I stood up. The one who regrets it won't be me. Back in the dorm, Shu Chinga asked me, what did she say? I spread out the torn pages. When I ripped it, I deliberately kept the signature page and the terms page. On it was Lu Chong, Yen's pre-sign name along with a Handwritten note from Lu, she asterisk. Tangja is emotionally unstable. Chingy, you'd better have the school, keep her a few more days. Shu, Chinga, read the line, and sucked in a breath. I folded the paper and hid it in the lining of my lunchbox. Another debt to settle. Outside, the wind howled, but for the first time, I felt like those walls weren't so high anymore. On the seventh day, Lu Qingyang came. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a dark gray overcoat. I used to like him dressed like that, steady and clean, like someone reliable. Now sitting across from him in the visiting room, he felt like a stranger. The director poured him. Da. Her tone sycophantic. Mr. Lu, Mrs. Lu hasn't made much progress these past few days. We'll need your cooperation. Lu Qingyang looked at me. Shinong, stop making a scene. I asked, calmly. Who's making a scene? He frowned. Xiao went home and cried all night. She's pregnant. Why do you have to provoke her? She came at me with an agreement, forcing me to sign. I didn't sign, and that's provoking her. That was for your own good. He placed another file on the table. This is the official version. Sign it, and I'll take you home. Today, I didn't even glance at it. Does it still say I voluntarily admit to emotional instability? Voluntarily. Accept Lu, she, and voluntarily continue to authorize you to manage the Shen family fund. Lu Chongyayan's face stiffened. Don't overcomplicate things. I've been handling the fund just fine. Handling it by funneling money here. His eyes flickered. That 1 second told me everything. He knew. He knew it all. He knew where that money came from and where it was supposed to go. He just thought I wouldn't check. Or if I did, I wouldn't dare to make a fuss. Shentang. His voice turned cold. Between husband and wife, there's no need to be so calculating. I stared at him. When you used my name to sign the admission application, did you think about whether husband and wife needed to be so calculating? The director jumped in. Immediately. Mrs. Lu, the application process was compliant. I turned to her. Then show me the original. The director fell silent. Lu Chongyin's patience finally ran out. Shantang, the way you are right now, it really disappoints me. He'd used that line on me many times before when I didn't go to his business dinners. He said he was disappointed when I refused to let his mother move into the Shin family's main house. He said he was disappointed when I questioned why Lu Xia was texting him late at night. He said he was disappointed, as if every time he said it, I was supposed to immediately admit I was wrong. But this time, I just smiled. Lu Qingyang, you're disappointed because I didn't walk the path you laid out for me. He locked eyes with me. What exactly do you want? I want to see the original admission application. I want my phone back. I want to see my family's financials. I want to leave this place. The director's face went pale. Lu Qingyang, on the other hand, smiled with a hint of sarcasm. You think you're still the eldest Miss Shin Shantang? Be realistic. Who's been propping up the Shin family all these years? Me. I've been pulling strings for you, maintaining your dignity. I looked at him. My chest didn't ache. Just a belated clarity settled in. Is that really what you think? Isn't it? He leaned in, lowering his voice. Without the Lu family, your so-called clan is nothing but an old mansion and a few elderly. What can you do if you walk out? Now, I nodded. So, this is how you've always seen the Shun family. He grew impatient. Stop changing the subject. Sign. He shoved the pen into my hand. I took it. The director let out a sigh of relief. Lu Chongyan's expression softened. I held the pen, pausing for a few seconds over the signature line. Then I wrote 2 words. Asterisk refused. To sign asterisk. Lu Chongyan's face instantly turned ashen. Shantang. I put the pen down. Those 2 words are my true intent. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Do you have to make yourself look this pathetic? I stood up too. The pathetic one is you. The mentor at the door tried to grab me. Suddenly, Shu Chinga burst in from the hallway, blocking me. Don't touch her. The mentor snapped. Who told you to come? Shu Qing's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. You have no right to detain her. You have no right to force her to sign. The director's face darkened. Shu Chinga, do you want to stay here, too? I grabbed Shu Qing's hand. She will leave, and so will I. Lu Qingyang sneered. On what grounds? I didn't answer him. Instead, I looked at the director. When you enroll trainees, you register emergency contacts. My contact shouldn't be Lu Qingyang. The director's eyes flickered with unease. I continued. 3 years ago, I filled out the Shun family's internal medical and security authorization forms. My primary emergency contact was Lin Ruji. If you're following protocol, you should have notified her based on the real records. If you're not, that's even easier to deal with. The director fell silent. Lu Qingyang finally caught on. When did you fill that out? I met his gaze before I married you back when I hadn't yet turned myself into Mrs. Lu. Back when I wasn't naive enough to think a husband could replace everything. The director left the meeting room and didn't return for a long time. When she came back, her face was grim. Mr. Lu, Ms. Lin is already on her way. Lu Qingyang whipped his head toward me. You planned this all along. Not that early. I picked up the agreement from the table. This time I didn't tear it. I folded it neatly and slipped it into my coat pocket, just from the day you sent me here. I decided I wasn't leaving empty-handed. 2 hours later, Aunt Lin arrived. She wore a black suit, her hair perfectly in place. When my mother was alive, she was the steward of the Shin family's old estate. After my mother passed, she guarded the Shin family storerooms and ledgers for me. The moment she saw me, her eyes reened. Mississippi, just those 2 words, and Lu Chong Yen's face changed because it had been so long since anyone called me that. He was used to everyone calling me Mrs. Lu, so used to it that he forgot I was born a Shin. Aunt Lin placed a document in front of the director. Miss Shin's premarital identity authorization records. I am her primary contact. Your institution detained her without her genuine consent and without confirmation from her legal contact. We will pursue this. The director's tone softened instantly. This might be a misunderstanding. Aunt Lin didn't even glance at her. Save the explanation for the investigation. When I walked out of Minga Academy, the sky was already dark. Lu Qingyang chased after me. Shinong, get in the car. I'll take you home. I stopped walking. Which home? He froze. I turned to face him. Lu Qingyang, starting today, I'm going back to the Shan family. The door of the old Shin residence hadn't opened for me at night in 3 years, not because it couldn't, but because I never came back. I always thought that once you married, you should treat your husband's home as your own. When my mother-in-law was sick, I stayed by her bedside when my sister-in-law studied abroad. I paid for it. When Lu Qingyang hit a rough patch, starting his business, I handed him my Shin family connections. As for the old Shin house, I only came back on holidays to burn incense, check the accounts, and hand out red envelopes to the old servants. Aunt Lin always said, "Miss, your room is always ready for you." I always replied, "Aunt Lin, I'm doing fine now." Looking back, I wasn't fine. I was holding on when the car stopped at the old Shin residence. Aunt Lin got out first and personally pushed open the gate for me. The crabapple tree in the courtyard was still there. My mother used to love sitting under it, going over account books. She used to say, "A woman can love someone, but she should never hand herself over to anyone to keep." I was young then. I didn't understand. Now I do. But the price was steep. Aunt Lin led me into the study. Several craft paper envelopes were already laid out on the desk. A pre-marriage asset list, the annual flow of the Shin Family Fund, the Lu Family Cooperation Authorization Agreement, and the borrowing agreement for the Lu Family Villa. I flipped through them one by one, my fingers growing colder with each page. In 3 years, what Lu Chengyang had taken from the Shin family wasn't just money, it was reputation, venues, partnership qualifications, medical resources, charity project slots. He wrapped my concessions in the phrase joint marital affairs and passed them off as his own ability. Aunt Lin stood beside me, her voice, "Mississippi, you used to say, Mr. Lu was family, and told us not to fuss, but Uncle Chin kept the accounts all along. He said, in case you ever needed to see them, there had to be something to show." I closed the ledger. "Where's Uncle Chin?" "In the back courtyard office, waiting for your word." I nodded. "Tell him to start organizing a detailed breakdown of the last 3 years. Tomorrow, every single entry needs a receipt." A flicker of light lit Aunt Lin's eyes. Yes, by the time I got my phone back, it was already past midnight. As soon as I turned it on, dozens of missed calls popped up from Lu Chengyang, from my mother-in-law, from my sister-in-law, most of all from the butler at the Lu family villa. I opened the text messages the butler had sent. 7 or 8 asterisk. "Madam, this month's living expenses haven't been transferred. The kitchen can't settle the purchases. Madam, the final payment for Madam's custom jewelry is due. Asterisk, Madam, Mrs. Overseas rent needs to be sent. Ask. Asterisk, Madam, Mr. Lu says you need to handle this immediately upon seeing this asterisk." I stared at the word "Madam" and suddenly laughed. They only called me that when they needed money. I opened my bank page and canceled every automatic payment tied to the Lu family living expenses account. Can lead Butler's reserve fund canceled. Mother-in-law's annual beauty clinic membership renewal canceled. Sister-in-law's overseas apartment rent canceled. Lu Changyan's private driver fees canceled one by one. The page kept popping up confirmation prompts. I didn't hesitate. I confirmed them all. Finally, I sent a message to Uncle Chin. Asterisk, starting tomorrow, freeze all of Lu Chongyen's delegated authority in the Shin Family Foundation. Uncle Chen replied quickly, "Mississippi, it's about time." The next afternoon, Ju Huang called. I answered. Her voice was shrill and grating. "Shantang, what do you think you're doing? Why won't my card work?" I sat in the study, flipping through the ledger. Which card? Don't play dumb with me. The Jade Bongle I ordered at Honglong. Final payment of 280.000. Why did your supplementary card show as invalid? Because I canceled it. 2 seconds of silence on the other end. Then she exploded. Are you insane? You're a daughter-in-law of the Liu family. Isn't it your duty to support your mother-in-law? I turned to a page and kept my voice calm. Ms. J. Over the past 3 years, you've spent a total of 634 million yuan using the Shin family supplementary card that includes jewelry, skincare, travel, and mahjong club fees. Not a single item qualifies as a necessary expense for the Liu household. She panicked visibly. You investigated me. I checked my own accounts. She trembled with rage. Just, you wait. I'll have Qingyang deal with you. The call was cut off half an hour later. Liu Qingyang returned, not to the Shin residence, but to the Liu family villa, and I went there, too, because that villa's property rights belonged to the Shin family when I arrived. Liu Xia was sitting on the living room sofa. 2 suitcases sat by her feet. My mother-in-law was seated in the main chair, holding her hand with a warm smile. Xia, just settle in here. This will be your home from now on. I stood at the doorway, waiting until she finished speaking. Before I stepped inside, everyone in the living room turned to look at me. Ju Hu Allen's face darkened. So, you finally decided to come back. I glanced at Liu Xia's luggage. Who let her stay here? Liu Qingyang came down the stairs. I did. He looked like he hadn't slept well. His eyes were bloodshot, but his tone was still that same self-righteous one. She is pregnant now and needs care. Stop making a scene. I placed a document on the coffee table. Then take her to your own house. Liu Qingyang frowned. What do you mean? I mean this villa is premarital property of the Shan family. It was lent to the Liu family 3 years ago, and the agreement clearly states that only Liu Qingyang and his legal spouse may reside here. No third party outside. The marriage is allowed. Liu Xisha's face went pale. One shot to her feet. You dare to kick people out. We've lived here for 3 years. This is the Liu family's home. I looked at her. Even if you lived here for 30 years, it wouldn't become your property. Liu Qingyang stared at me. Shanong, do you have to be this ruthless? I'm just following the rules. I pulled out my phone and called the property management. From today onward, revoke Liu Xi's visitor access. Any new residents in the Liu household must have written approval from the property owner. Liu Xi's tears started falling again. Sister, do you have to humiliate me like this? I looked at her. When you dragged your luggage into my home, didn't you think you were humiliating me? She clutched her lower abdomen, her body swaying. Liu Qingyang immediately steadied her. Shinong, she's pregnant. I watched them, leaning on each other, and for the first time my heart didn't ache. Then she should go to the child's father for responsibility. Liu Chongyen's face turned ashen. I placed the wedding ring box on the coffee table. Here, take this. Back. 2. He didn't take it. I turned and walked away behind me. Yu Huan's curses, Liu Xi sobs, and Liu Chongyan suppressed anger all mixed together. But I didn't stop for a single step when I reached the door. The butler chased after me. Madam, about this month's salary. I turned back. Don't call me madam anymore. I paused, and whoever hired you, go ask them for your pay. The Butler's face went pale. I walked out of the villa. The sunlight outside was blindingly bright, so bright that for the first time I saw clearly that the house I had willingly given up had always been waiting for me to take back the keys. On the third day after the Liu family villa's mortgage defaulted, Ju Huan came to the Shin family's old residence herself. She wasn't alone. She brought Lu Mingju and a few other Liu family relatives. They stood at the Shan family's gate, looking like they were here to collect a debt. Aunt Lin came out to block them. Ju Huan raised her hand to shove her. I walked out of the courtyard. Ms. Ju, if you lay a finger on her, I'll call the police. Immediately, Ju Hua Allen's hand froze mid-air. She withdrew it with a scowl. Shintang, you've really grown a backbone now, daring to shut your own mother-in-law out of the door. I glanced at the crowd outside. The Shin family doesn't entertain troublemakers. Lu Minga sneered. Sister-in-law, who are you pretending to be? The eldest miss of the Shin family. Everyone knows that after your parents left, the Shin family fell apart. If it weren't for my brother propping up the scene for you, would you be where you are today? I smiled. Lu Ming-su, who paid your rent in London last month? Her face instantly changed. Why are you bringing that up? Who put the money in your bank card for living expenses? Who arranged the recommendation resources you used when applying to schools? And the apartment you moved into after returning to the country? Whose name is it registered under? Her lips moved, but no words came out. Ju Allen immediately stepped in to protect her daughter, counting every little thing within the family. Aunt, you ashamed of yourself? I nodded. Fine. Starting today, I won't count anymore. I handed her a notice. All members of the Liu family must vacate the properties under the Shin family name within 7 days. As for the unreasonable expenditures over the past 3 years, I'll hand them over to a lawyer for civil recovery. As for the family debts, no need to repay. Consider it 3 years of me being blind. Ju Allen's face flushed red with anger. How dare you? You and Chunyang aren't divorced yet. Marital property is shared. Premarital assets, Aunt. I looked at her. And, besides, your son knows that very well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so eager to get me to sign that continuing authorization. The Liu relatives began whispering among themselves. Yu Huan heard them and grew more frantic. Stop spouting nonsense here. Chengyang had you sign because you're mentally unstable. That line hit exactly where I wanted it. I turned and took the folder. From Aunt Lin, since you brought it up. Perfect. I pulled out a copy of the admission application to Minga Academy. On this application form, the signature isn't mine. The reason for application says I lost emotional control and attacked Lu Xia. Where's the evidence? Ju Hu Allen's eyes darted away. How should I know? Chenyang arranged all that. Then why did you push me to go? That day at the family banquet? Her mouth opened, but no answer came. Lu Ming-su Witzba. Mom, stop talking. But it was too late. The relatives at the door had changed. The way they looked at her, they were fine with taking advantage, but no one wanted to be publicly associated with conspiring to send a daughter-in-law to a reform academy. Ju Allen realized the tide had turned and immediately started throwing a tantrum. I'm not wasting words with you. Restore my card right now and bring Xia back to the villa. She's carrying the Liu family's child. If anything happens to her, can you take responsibility? I looked at her. She's carrying the Lu family's child. What does that have to do with the Shin family? Ju Huan choked on my words. Just then, a car pulled up at the gate. Lu Qingyang got out, his face dark. He must have rushed over after getting the news. Lu Shixia followed him out. She was wearing a loose long dress, her face pale, one hand pressed over her lower belly. The moment she appeared, Ju Huan acted like she'd found a lifeline. Qingyang, look at your wife. She's kicking us out and leaving Xia to wander the streets. Lu, she looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Sister, I know you hate me, but the child is innocent. I don't have to live in the villa. I can stay anywhere. Just please don't cut off Chongyen's path. That was clever on the surface. She was backing down, but in reality, she was reminding everyone that I was blocking Lu Chongyen's way. Lu Chongyen's voice dropped. Shantang, let's talk. I looked at him. Let's talk right here. He suppressed his anger. Don't let outsiders see the joke. When you sent me to the academy, you weren't afraid of outsiders seeing the joke. His face went pale. Lu Xia immediately chimed in. Sister, that matter. Chenyang did it for your own good. Shut up. I cut her off for the first time. Lu Xixia froze. I walked down the steps and stood in front of her. Lu Xixia, you used my medical quota to book appointments. You used my house to rest during your pregnancy. You used my money to pay for the academy fees. And now you're standing at the Shin family's doorstep, playing the victim. What gives you the nerve? Her tears fell harder. I didn't. Did you or didn't you? The hospital payment receipts will tell. I pulled a receipt from the folder last Wednesday at the First City Hospital's premium maternity ward. The pair information listed was Xin Tang with Lu Qingyang as the companion. But that day, I was at Minga Academy and my phone and ID were both confiscated. Lu Chongyin's face changed instantly. Lu Xia reached out to grab it. I stepped back. Don't rush. This is just one of them. The surroundings fell completely silent. Lu Qingyang looked at Lu Xia. Lu, she panicked. Brother Qingyang, I was just afraid I couldn't get an appointment. Sister has more resources, and I thought she wouldn't mind. I laughed. So you used my identity because you thought I wouldn't mind. She bit her lip, not daring to meet my eyes. Lu Changyang finally began to realize things were spiraling out of control. He walked up to me, his voice softening. Xintang, I'll handle this. Don't make a scene for now. Too late. I tucked the documents back. The Shin family banquet is in 3 days. Haven't you always said I don't understand propriety? I looked at Lu Qingyang. In 3 days, in front of the Shin family relatives and the Lu family elders. Well, settle every single account one by one. Lu Chongyin's face darkened. Are you threatening me? No. I turned and stepped back inside. I'm informing you 3 days ago. Lu Qingyang still thought I was making a fuss. 3 days later, he started to get scared. He called me over a dozen times in a row. I only answered one on the other end of the line. His voice was weary. Shantang, cancel the banquet. Let's talk privately. Flipping through the hospital payment receipts, I kept my tone calm. Why do you really have to drag our marital issues in front of everyone? When you sent me to the academy, the application form said it was a domestic conflict between spouses. When you used the Shin family fund to pay, it went through public accounts. When Lu Shi used my identity to book appointments, she tapped into Shin family medical resources. I paused. Which of these is just between husband and wife? He was silent after a long while. He said, G is pregnant. If you push her like this and something happens. Lu Chengyang. I cut him off. Her pregnancy isn't a free pass for your wrongdoing. The breathing on the other end grew heavy. I hung up. That afternoon, I went to the first city hospital not to find Lu Shisha, but to complete the records behind that payment receipt. The nurse at the premium counter still remembered me when she saw me in person. She was visibly startled. Miss Shin, didn't you come last time? I said, that wasn't me last time. The nurse's expression shifted. I handed over my ID. I need to check all appointments and payment records under my name for the past 3 months. The hospital can't just hand out information to anyone, but I was checking my own. Soon, a stack of printouts came out. Lu Xia had used my name to book 3 appointments, 1 for prenatal checkup, 1 for nutrition consultation, 1 for psychological counseling. The companion note on all of them read, Lu Qingyang. The most glaring one was the psychological counseling session. The note read, patient experiencing anxiety due to marital stress, accompanied by husband. I stared at that line and almost laughed. Lu, she used my name to see a psychologist. Then Lu Qingyang would hand over Shenang's emotional instability as evidence to the academy. One link after another. This wasn't a moment of carelessness. It was premeditated. The nurse looked uneasy. Miss Shin, should we add an internal note about the identity discrepancy? I nodded. Yes. Please make it clear that I confirm today that those 3 visits were not made by me. The nurse immediately complied. This wasn't surveillance or recording. It was the appointment and payment records already in the system, footprints they had left themselves. As I left the hospital, I ran into Lu Xia in the parking lot. She must have just finished a checkup. Lu Chengyang wasn't there, just a driver accompanying her. When she saw me, her face changed. I didn't dodge. I walked straight over. She spoke first. Are you satisfied now? Brother Qingyang has been troubled by your matters every day. I looked at the medical test bag in her hand. You shouldn't worry about him being troubled. You should worry about what you've done. She sneered. Shinong, do you really think a few pieces of paper can do anything? Brother Qingyang won't abandon me. The child is real, too. I never said the child was fake. I took a step closer. What I said is, you can't use the child to steal my identity, my house, or my money. Her eyes flashed with cruelty for a moment. You have so much. What's wrong with sharing a little with me? Finally, the truth came out. I looked at her. So, you do know it's mine. Her face froze. I continued. Luisha, you're not fragile. You're greedy. You didn't have no choice. You just chose to climb over others. She laughed a twisted laugh. So, what? Brother Qingyang loves me. You hold on to the Shin family. But so what? These 3 years, haven't you been washing his clothes, cooking for him, accompanying him to social events, and currying favor with his mother, Shantang? You lost because you wanted a family too badly. That hit the mark. If it were before, it would have hurt. But now I only found her pathetic. She thought seeing through my weakness meant she could always control me. I opened my bag and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a copy of the hospital consent form signed under my name. This handwriting is yours, isn't it? Her face turned pale. I put the paper away. You'd better remember this. Every time you think I'll endure it, you're just adding another debt to your account. Suddenly, she pressed her hand to her lower stomach and stepped back. The driver nervously supported her. Miss Lu. She looked at me, her eyes instantly reening. Sister, don't push me. I stood still, not moving an inch. Pedestrians in the parking lot turned to look. She was putting on a show again, but this time I didn't explain or step forward. I just pointed at the ground. Stand. Steady yourself. No one here touched you. An elderly woman nearby couldn't help but say, yeah, I saw it. She was still 2 steps away from you. Lu Shi. Shah's expression froze. More onlookers gathered. She couldn't keep up the act and had to let the driver help her into the car before the door closed. She glared at me. I knew she wouldn't stop. Sure enough, that evening, Lu Qingyang sent a message. Shinong Xia was frightened at the hospital today. You must apologize to her at the family banquet. Don't bring up the hospital matter. I looked at the message and replied with 2 words. Dream on. A few minutes later, he sent another. If you insist on this, we'll get a divorce. I smiled. Then I sent him the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago. Fine. 3 days from now at the family banquet. We'll sign it together. There was no response for a long time. I turned my phone face down on the table. Aunt Lynn brought me hot tea and asked, softly, Mississippi, are you afraid? I looked out the window. The lights of the old Shin mansion were lighting up one by one. No. I paused. I just think 3 years is too long. So long that they forgot Shanong was not Lu Chong, Yayan's accessory. The Shin family was not the Lu family's warehouse. The Shan family banquet was held in the old mansion's main hall. The long table was left by my grandfather, able to seat 24 people for the past 3 years. Every time Lu Qingyang accompanied me back, he sat beside me. Relatives praised him for being steady and responsible. He would always gently put food on my plate, saying, Tang Tang doesn't talk much. Everyone, please don't mind. Back then, I thought it was thoughtfulness. Now I realize he was speaking for me. Slowly, taking away my place this time, I had someone remove the seat next to his. Only one chair was left at the head of the table, mine. The Lu family arrived early. Ju Huan walked straight toward the head seat. As soon as she entered, Aunt Lin blocked her. Mrs. Ju, that seat belongs to Miss Shin. Ju. Alan's face turned ugly. I'm her mother-in-law. What's wrong with sitting here? I stepped out from behind the screen. Sit in the wrong seat, and you might find it hard to get up. The main hall fell silent for a moment. Then Lu Chunyang entered. Lu she came too. She was dressed plainly, her belly not yet showing, but she kept her hand on it as if afraid no one would notice. Lu Chunyang saw only one chair at the head of the table and frowned. Shintang, what exactly are you trying to do today? Family dinner. I sat down and settling accounts. A few distant elders from the Shin family sat on either side. They hadn't been close to me over the years, but they still respected the Shan family's rules. Uncle Chin placed the account books in front of me. 3 thick volumes. When Lu Qingyang saw those books, his face visibly changed. Ju Allen hadn't grasped the severity yet, and snorted, settling accounts between husband and wife, between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Why be so nitpicky? I opened the first volume, first entry. June 3rd years ago. Lu Corporation had a cash flow crisis. Lu Chenyang citing. Joint development as a couple applied to. Use Shan Family Cooperative Resources. Profiting 3.200.000. Lu Qingyang said in a low voice. That amount was repaid later. Uncle Chin immediately handed over the receipts. The principal was repaid, but not the gains during the period of use, nor the costs of the Shun family's delayed legal aid project for women. I continued, flipping. Second entry. Personal expenses of MS1, totaling 6.340.000. Over 3 years. When es fast read. I'm your mother-in-law, so I didn't charge interest on that. I turned to the next page. Third entry. Overseas. Rent, tuition, and social expenses for Lu Minggu, totaling 2.170.000. Lu Mingjiu couldn't sit still. Sister-in-law, how can you bring this up? I looked at her. You didn't seem embarrassed when you were spending the money. The Shin relatives began, murmuring among themselves. Lu Changyang finally spoke. Enough. Shantang, did you call everyone here just to humiliate my family? I raised my eyes. It's not your turn yet. His face stiffened. I opened the second volume. Fourth entry. Fees for the Advanced Refinement Program at Ming Das Hut Academy with a deposit paid from Lu Chong Yen's personal account. Subsequent sponsorship funds were transferred from the Shin family charity funds cooperative project. The room went still. Some didn't understand. Those who did changed expressions. Instantly, an elder frowned. Mingishu Academy, that place that teaches women to know their place. I nodded. Yes, Lu Qingyang sent me there. Lu Qingyang shot to his feet. Shanong, I didn't raise my voice. Sit down. The accounts aren't finished. Lu Shishia's face turned pale and she whispered, Sister, with so many elders here today, why must you? I looked at her. You're on the list, too. She shut up. I opened the third volume. Fifth entry. Lu Shishia impersonated me 3 times to use Shin. Family medical resources, registration, payment, consent forms. The hospital has flagged the records as anomalies. Lu Xia's tears fell instantly. I didn't mean to. I was just so scared. I closed the account book. Sixth entry. The marriage reconciliation agreement Lu Xia personally delivered to Minga Academy. It demanded I admit to jealousy, accept her moving in, and continue authorizing Lu Qingyang to manage the Shan family fund. I placed the torn remnants of that agreement on the table. Everyone's eyes landed on it. Lu Chongyayan's signature was clear, and so was Lu Ji Sha's note. Ju Huan finally panicked. This is all a misunderstanding. She is pregnant. Chengyang just wanted peace in the family. I smiled. Sending your wife to a re-education academy, forcing her to make room for her husband's first love. That's called peace in the family. No one spoke. Lu Qingyang looked at me, and for the first time there was helplessness in his eyes. Shanong, let's talk this over at home. Go back where I slid a new document across the table to him. All properties under the Shin family name must be vacated by the Lu family within 7 days. All authorizations for the Shin family fund are revoked. Effective today, the Lu family and Lu Xia are prohibited from using any Shin family resources in any form. He stared at the document, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Are you really going this far? I looked at him. You taught me that yourself. The day you sent me to the academy, I paused. A woman must follow the rules. My rule is whoever reaches for something from the Shan family gives it back. The main hall was so quiet you could hear the clink of teacups. Just then, a woman's voice came from the entrance. Miss Shin, I can testify. Everyone turned. Shu Qingher stood at the door. She wore an ordinary white shirt, her face still pale, but she stood straight. The dean followed. Behind her, her face ashen, I saw Lu Chongyan's expression shift. Inch by inch, he finally understood today's family gathering wasn't my emotional breakdown. It was a trial I had long awaited. When Shu Qinghe walked into the main hall, many didn't recognize her, but Lu Qingyang did. He had seen her in the meeting room of Minga Academy. Back then, she had stood in front of me, saying, "Don't touch her." At the time, he probably thought she was just meddling. Now, standing at the Shan family banquet, he finally realized that the woman he had dismissed was also evidence. Shu Qinghe's voice wasn't loud. My name is Shu Qinghe. 21 days ago, my husband sent me to Mingda's Hud Academy. The reason was that I refused to add my premarital property to my mother-in-law's name. She paused. The signature on my admission application wasn't written by me either. A low murmur rippled through the hall. The dean quickly explained. And Mrs. Shu, you can't say that. All procedures at our institution were confirmed by the family. Shu Qinghe looked at her. Family confirmation doesn't equal personal consent. At these words, the faces of several Shen family elders darkened. I took out a copy of my admission application and placed it on the table. This is the application, submitted by Lu Qingyang, Aunt Lin, then placed another document on the table. This is the asset management authorization Miss Shan signed before marriage with her own signature. The two documents sat side by side without professional verification. The difference was obvious to the naked eye. The characters Shintang on the application was soft, round, and trailing. My signature was sharp, with a distinct break at the final stroke. The clan elder picked it up, examined it, and his face turned grim. Chengyang, what's going on here? Lu Chong. Yayan's lips moved. Shanong was in a bad mood that day. I just handled it. For her. I smiled. So you admit you signed it for me? His face stiffened. The eyes of everyone in the room bore down on him. Ju Huan quickly interjected. What's wrong with a husband signing for his wife? Chengyang is her husband. Shu Qinghe spoke coldly. If a husband can sign for his wife arbitrarily, then can my husband sell my house for me? Divorce me for me? Declare me insane for me? Ju Allen was left speechless. The dean tried to shift the blame. We only acted based on the information provided by Mr. Liu. I looked at her. You took my phone, restricted my contact with the outside world, forced me to write a confession, demanded I admit to being jealous of Lucia was all. That based on information. 2. The dean's face turned deathly pale. Sister Jiao also arrived. She stood at the door, holding an old lunchbox. It was the lunchbox I had used at the academy. She opened it, revealing carbon paper, torn, bill stubs, and coarse cards hidden in the inner compartment. Her voice trembled. I cooked in the academy cafeteria. Miss Shan didn't lie. Many wives weren't there voluntarily. Anyone who refused to sign a confession got less food, was locked in the discipline room or wasn't allowed to call home. Shuinga's eyes reened. They said it was for the good of the family. No one spoke in the hall anymore. Lu Chongyayan's expression could no longer be described as merely ugly. I looked at him. Lu Chengyang, didn't you say I was emotionally unstable? How about now? He murmured. I didn't think they'd treat you like this. You didn't think I stood up. You paid for the advanced disciplinary fee. Your note said you wanted me to learn to accept Lu Xia. You had her bring the agreement into force, me to sign it, and now you're saying you didn't think. He took half a step back, pushed by my words. Lu Xia suddenly burst into tears. Brother Qingyang, I didn't know it would turn out like this. I just wanted to calm sister down. That agreement, you said. Lu Chengyang whipped his head toward her. What did I say? Lu Shishia seemed to realize she'd let something slip and immediately shut her mouth. But everyone had heard. I smiled. Norus, you can take your time, blaming each other. I picked up Lu Xia's note. This says to keep me at the academy a few more days. Lu Xia, this is your handwriting, isn't it? She shook her head, crying. No. Aunt Lin placed another piece of paper on the table. It was the confirmation slip Lu Xia had signed under my name at the hospital. The two papers side by side, the handwriting eerily similar. I didn't call for a forensic analysis. I just let everyone see for themselves. Most of the time, the truth doesn't need a dramatic entrance, just laid out on the table. It's enough to suffocate lies. Lu Xia finally panicked, turning to grab Lu Chongyayan's sleeve. Brother Chengyang, say something for me. I did it all because I love you. I didn't want to make things hard for you. For the first time, Lu Qingyang didn't immediately shield her. He stared at the pile of documents like he was looking at a pit he dug with his own hands. I slid the final document in front of him, the divorce papers. He jerked his head up. No way, I said. Weren't you the one who wanted a divorce all along to let her move in for the kid for so-called peace? I said that in anger, but I didn't. His eyes actually reened. Shantang, we had 3 years together. Don't you care at all? I looked at him, finding it absurd. Did you care when you sent me to the academy? Did you care when you let Lu Xia steal my identity? Did you care when you used the Shin family fund to pay for the disciplinary fee? Did you care when you let your mother swipe my card live in my house and call me an unworthy wife for questions in a row? And he couldn't answer a single one. Ju Allen, seeing her son cornered, finally couldn't take it. Shantang, don't be too harsh. Qingyang is a man. What's the big deal if a man makes a mistake now that you've blown this up? Who's going to want you in the future? I turned to her. Mrs. J, I'm not merchandise. I don't need anyone to want me. She froze. I picked up the eviction notice from the table. Also, move out within 7 days. If you're late, I'll take legal action. Lu Minga panicked. Brother, say something. What about my apartment? I looked at these people. At this moment, what they cared about most wasn't who hurt whom, but the house, the money, the card, the apartment. Lu Qingyang closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his voice was hoarse. Xintang, don't push me to the edge. I smiled. Lu Chengyang, I didn't put you on that edge. I gathered my documents. You started walking toward the day. You sent me to Minga Academy, one step at a time. After the family dinner, Lu, she disappeared for a day. Lu Chengyang searched for her all day. Yu Huan accused me of driving a pregnant woman away, saying, if anything happened to the child, I'd never have peace. I ignored her because Uncle Chin had uncovered a new trail. Lu Xiondon apartment with a monthly rent of 32,000. The pair wasn't Lu Chenyang, it was the Reserve Fund of the Women's Shelter project under the Shin Family Foundation. When I saw that line, my fingers paused for a long time. The Women's Shelter Project was the most important initiative my mother had championed before she died. She used to say, many women can't leave bad marriages, not because they don't want to, but because they have nowhere to go. So every year, the Shun family allocates funds to provide short-term housing and legal aid to women who genuinely need help. Lu Shishia moved into one of those cooperative apartments. The reason? Stated experiencing emotional trauma. No. Stable residence referrer. Lu Chenyang. In the aid review materials, there was a personal statement she had handwritten. She wrote that she had returned to the country alone, was maliciously ostracized by the legal wife, suffered physical and emotional trauma, and needed temporary shelter, legal wife. I stared at those two words and suddenly found them ironic. She painted me as the perpetrator, then moved into a house my mother left for women in need. I had Uncle Chen print out the materials. No embellishments, no bulterations. The original application form, payment, records, check-in registration, apartment key receipt, all laid out. The next day, I went to that apartment. When she opened the door. Her eyes were swollen. Seeing me, her first instinct was to slam it shut. I raised my hand and held it open. Routine inspection by the Shun Family Property Management. She gritted her teeth. Do you have to push me to the edge? I looked past her into the room. Genuine leather sofa, imported crib, walls lined with new clothes. Living like this in an aid apartment, you sure know how to enjoy yourself. Her face changed. Chingyang bought all this. Then tell him to move it out. I handed her the eviction notice. You don't meet the criteria for the women's housing assistance program and you submitted false materials. Vacate within 3 days. She slapped the notice away. Shuntang, who do you think you are? I bent down and picked it up. I'm the one who owns this house. It's the Shin family's. She finally dropped the act. The Shin family. The Shin family. Can you say anything else if you weren't born into a good family? What right would you have to stand here looking down on me? I looked at her. So you admit it. What you want isn't Lu Chengyang. It's what the Shin family has. She let out a cold laugh. I want security. Is that wrong? I'm a woman pregnant trying to fight for some guarantee for myself. Is that wrong? Not wrong. I placed the notice back on the table, but a guarantee isn't something you steal, and it's definitely not something you take by stepping on another woman. She stared at me, eyes fixed. Don't act so righteous. Aren't you just riding on the Shin family? Do you really think Qingyang loves you? He got tired of you long ago. He said, you're like a cold, rigid mansion. Too many rules. No fun. He feels relaxed when he's with me. If I had heard those words a month ago, they would have kept me up at night with pain. But now I only asked her one thing. If he loves you that much, why doesn't he just divorce me and marry you? Her face froze. I answered for her because he still needs the Shin family's resources. Because he can't give up the house the Lu family lives in. Can't give up the fund authorization. Can't stand losing the title of the Shin family son-in-law. Lu. She's lips turned white. No, you know. It's true. I looked at her. That's why. You were so desperate to get me to sign the agreement, as long as I admitted. Full. As long as I kept the authorization going, he could keep the Shin family's benefits and still bring you in. She gripped the table, her knuckles white. I set down another document. This is the supplementary statement you wrote to Minger Academy. You claimed I've been controlling Lu Qingyang for a long time, that I'm emotionally unstable, and that I might harm you and the child. Her pupils contracted. How did you get that? You handed it over yourself. You have to face the consequences. She suddenly lunged to grab it. I stepped back. Aunt Lin entered the doorway with the property manager. Lu Shishia froze. Mid-motion, the property manager spoke. Madaroff, factly, Miss Lu will come to inspect the apartment in 3 days. Please vacate on time. Lu's eyes tears fell again, but this time, no one comforted her as I left the apartment. Lu Qingyang arrived. He was running hard, sweat on his forehead. Shinong, don't touch her. I looked at him. You're too late. He rushed inside, saw the documents on the table, and his face instantly changed. Lu Shishia threw herself into his arms. Brother, Chengyang, she's trying to drive me away. She wants to destroy me. Lu. Qingyang looked at me, his eyes complicated. Shinong, she's pregnant. I nodded. So, I'm giving her 3 days. If anyone else had submitted fake documents to fraudulently occupy public welfare housing, I would have called the police. Today, Lu Shishia's sobbing paused. Lu. Qingyang looked down at her. Fake documents. I didn't explain. I handed him the documents. The more he read, the darker his face became. Xia, did you write these? Lu, she shook her head. Immediately. I was just too afraid of losing you. Lu Qingyang fell silent. He finally saw a glimmer of the truth, but it was too late. He looked up at me. Shantang, let's go back and talk. I'll make a move out and I'll handle the college matter. Can we put the divorce on hold? I looked at him and suddenly found him ridiculous. He wasn't regretting hurting me. He was realizing the situation was slipping out of his control and trying to cut his losses. No, his voice turned. I know I was wrong. Wrong about what? He froze. I said, you think the mistake was Lucia lying to you? The mistake was the situation blowing up. The mistake was me taking back the Shen family assets. But you've never once thought that sending me to that college itself was the mistake. He opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. I turned and left. The hallway was dimly lit. Behind me came Lu. She muffled crying, and Lu Chong. Yin's weary silence. I didn't look back because some people's so-called regret is just realizing the knife has cut their own hand. On the day at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Lu Qingyang was 20 minutes late. I didn't rush him. I sat on the bench and checked the divorce documents, ID card, marriage certificate, divorce agreement, asset division statement. Everything was there. Aunt Lin came with me, but didn't enter the mediation room. She said, Mississippi, you have to take this step yourself. I'll wait outside. I nodded. This was my marriage. It was only right that I end it with my own hands. When Lu Chengyang walked in, he hadn't shaved properly, and his eyes were bloodshot. He sat down next to me, not looking at the agreement, but at me first. You've lost weight. I didn't respond. He gave a bitter smile. In the past, when I said that You tell me to eat properly. In the past, I was stupid. His face went pale. The mediator looked at us. Are both parties sure about the divorce? I said, yes. Lu Qingyang was silent. The mediator looked at him. Mr. Lu. His voice was low and hoarse. I want to talk. More. I pushed the agreement toward him. Everything that needs to be said is in there. He finally opened it. The property ownership was clear. Premarital assets went to me. The recovery of resources the Lu family had taken from the Shin family would be handled in a separate case. Postmarital joint assets were divided based on actual contributions. I didn't take a cent more from him. I didn't take a cent less. After reading it, his eyes actually reened. Shinong, are you really leaving no room at all? I looked at him. I did leave room. He looked up. I said, word by word. The first time Lucia called you in the middle of the night, I left room. When you asked me to give her the master bedroom to rest, I left room. When your mother used my card and called me stingy, I left room before you sent me to Minga College. I also left room. His fingers trembled. At the time, I thought if you just went to cool down for a few days, we could work things out. It wasn't about cooling down, I said, looking at him. It was about taming me. He flinched as if those two words had stabbed him, and he shut his eyes tightly. I didn't mean to destroy you, but you did. The mediation room fell silent just then. The door was pushed open. Ju Allen burst in. You can't get divorced. The mediator frowned. Family members can't just barge in. Ju Allen ignored her and pointed directly at me, cursing. Shinong, are you trying to destroy the Lu family? You cut off the cards, took back the house, and now you want a divorce. What do you expect Young to do? Where are we supposed to live? I stood up. Miss Ju, this is the Civil Affairs Bureau, not the Lu family living room. Her eyes were red. You've been married into the Lu family for 3 years, haven't had a child, haven't taken good care of your husband, and now you want to split the family assets. Do you have any conscience? I smiled. You've reminded me. I took another document from my bag. This is a preliminary settlement of the Lu family's 3-year occupation of the Shen family's properties and funds. The formal materials will be delivered separately. Ju Huan saw the number and her face instantly turned pale. So much. Are you robbing us? Not robbing. I placed the document in front of her. It's paying back. Lu Minggu also rushed over. She stood at the door. Her eyes read, sister-in-law, my apartment has already been repossessed. The school is also pressing for rent. Can you help me out first? I'll pay you back when I start working. I looked at her before. Every time she acted spoiled, I would soften. She said life abroad was tough. She said her classmates all had nice bags and cars. She said, sister-in-law, you're the best. Back then, I really treated her like a little sister, but at the family banquet, when she laughed at me being sent to the academy, she didn't hesitate for a second. No, she froze. Why? Because I'm not your sister-in-law anymore. Tears fell from her eyes. But we used to be so close. Being close doesn't mean you spend my money while laughing at me behind my back. She had nothing to say. Lu Qingyang finally growled. Enough. Everyone fell silent. He looked at Ju Huan and Lu Mingju, his voice weary. Get out. Ju Allen couldn't believe it. Chengyang, I said, get out. She was startled and finally pulled Lu Minggu away. The door closed. Lu Chengyang sat back down looking drained. Shintang, Was I really that much of a jerk before? I looked at him. Yes. He smiled bitterly. You won't even comfort me anymore. What you need isn't comfort. It's accountability. He looked down at the agreement. After a long time, he picked up the pen. When he signed, his hand trembled badly. The three characters of Lu Qingyang were written in broken strokes. I signed quickly. Shantang. When the last stroke fell, I didn't cry. I didn't laugh in relief. I just felt the silence around me like a door that had been noisy for 3 years. Finally closed. As I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Lu Chengyang caught up. Tang Tang. I stopped. There were tears in his eyes. If I hadn't taken out that acceptance letter at the family banquet that day, would we not have ended up like this? I looked at him. No, he froze. I said, that day just made me see clearly what really pushed us to this point was you always thinking I would endure it. His face turned pale. I turned and walked toward Aunt Lynn. She opened the car door for me. Before getting in, I heard my phone ring. It was a message from Shu Chinga. Miss Shan, we've submitted the joint report. Thank you for letting us know that we don't have to bow our heads to walk out. I looked at the line of text and slowly smiled. This counterattack wasn't just mine. It belonged to everyone who had been trapped by it. For your own good. On the 7th day after the divorce, the Ming Shu Academy was investigated. The news didn't come from me. After Shu Chinga and the others submitted the joint report, some victims' families stepped forward voluntarily. Sister Jiao also submitted a written statement. She said that when her daughter was sent in back then, it was also her husband who signed the application on her behalf. After she came out, her daughter divorced, moved far away, and didn't dare come home for many years. Sister Jiao said, I didn't dare speak up before. Now that someone has stepped forward, I want to say for my daughter, too. She wasn't wrong. When those words reached my ears, I was silent for a long time. Aunt Lynn asked me, Mississippi, are you hurting? I nodded. Yes, because such a place had existed. Because many people woke up later than me. Because not every woman has an old Shin family home to return to. I restarted the women's shelter project my mother left behind. The first new rule was strict vetting. No resources could be taken by extramarital affairs, fake documents, or referrals from acquaintances. The second was adding a legal aid hotline. The third was establishing an emergency contact verification mechanism to prevent so-called family members from signing on behalf of others. After hearing this, Uncle Chin said, if Madam was still here, she'd be pleased. I looked at my mother's old photo. She'd probably scold me, too. Aunt Lynn smiled, but her eyes were red. Scold you for waking up too late. Yeah, I smiled, too. But it's okay. Not too late. The Liu family moved out of the villa on the 6th day. Yoo-hoo. Alan refused to leave, crying and making a scene in the living room, saying she'd lived there for 3 years and already considered it home. The property management followed procedure to inventory the items. Aunt Lynn was present throughout. When Ju Huan finally walked out clutching a box of jewelry, she still called me cold-blooded. I stood at the door watching the workers take down the Liu family's nameplate. That nameplate had been hung by Liu Chenyang himself 3 years ago. He had said, from now on, this is our home. Now it was removed, its back covered in dust. Lu Qingyang showed up, too. He had lost a lot of weight. Lu Shixia wasn't with him. I heard that after she moved out of the apartment, she went to see Lu Qingyang a few times. They had a huge fight. She blamed him for being useless, for not even being able to keep the house. He blamed her for deceiving him and causing him to lose the Shin family. How ridiculous. In the end, neither of them truly reflected on who they had hurt. They just blamed each other for who caused whose loss of benefits. Lu Qingyang stood outside the yard holding the wedding ring. Shantang. I turned around. Something else. He took 2 steps closer, his voice very soft. I'm not here today to beg for a remarriage. I didn't say anything. He looked down at the ring. I just wanted to return this to you. It's yours. He gave a bitter smile. Back when we bought it, you paid for it. I paused for a moment. Then I remembered back. Then he had just started his business and was tight on funds. The wedding ring was paid for with my card. He said he'd double it later. He never did. It wasn't because the ring was expensive. It was because from the very beginning, this marriage had too many moments of me covering up his struggles. I reached out and took the ring. A flicker of light appeared in Lu Chongyen's eyes. The next second, I tossed the ring into the nearby recycling bin. The metal hit the bottom with a soft clink. His eyes went completely dark. Don't you have any regrets at all? I looked at him. Lu Qingyang, I once regretted the version of you I thought would love me well. He caught his breath. I continued, but that person doesn't exist. Maybe he never did. His eyes reened. I'm sorry. Those 3 words. I had waited a long time for them. Now that they finally came, they were useless. I accept. He looked up sharply. I said, but I don't forgive. His tears fell. I didn't look again. As I turned away, I heard him whisper behind me, Shantang, you'll live well from now on, right? I paused for a second. Yes, not to spite him, not to prove anything, but because I really would. A month later, the old Shin residence had its plaque rehung. Not the Lu family villa, not the residence of Mrs. Lu. It was the Shin residence. I stood at the door watching the workers hang the new plaque. The sunlight fell on the black background in gold. Characters shining brightly. Shu Chinga came. She brought a bouquet of crab apple flowers for you. I took the flowers. She smiled and said, I got divorced. I kept the house. I'm planning to open a small shop next month. Congratulations. She looked at the door. Plent. You know what? Back at the academy, I always thought we'd still be scared when we got out. But now I've realized you can still move forward even when you're scared. I nodded. Yeah, you can still walk even when you're scared. That evening, the Shin family held a small banquet. No one from the Lu family was present. No false pretenses of dignity. Everyone who came genuinely cared about the Shin family, along with a few women who had once been helped by the Unju project. Aunt Lin handed me a cup of tea. Mississippi, the seat of honor, has been reserved for you. I looked at that chair. In the past, I was always afraid to sit in it, afraid others would say I was too domineering, afraid my husband would feel uncomfortable, afraid my mother-in-law would think I was overshadowing the Lu family, afraid Lu Xia would accuse me of being arrogant. But now I walked over and sat down. The sky didn't fall. No, one got hurt because of it. Everyone just looked at me, quietly waiting for me to speak. I lifted my teacup. From today onward, the Shin family's resources will only help those who deserve it. No more. Feeding greed. No more rewarding. Betrayal. And no longer paying for anyone's malice. Everyone raised their cups. I took a sip of tea. Warm. Bitter. With a lingering sweetness. Just like the past 3 years. And just like the life ahead of me after the banquet ended. I walked alone to the crabapple tree. The wind blew and petals landed on my shoulders. I remembered the day I married Lu Qingyang. I had stood here, too, full of hope, thinking that Shanong would finally have a new home. Later, I came to understand a woman doesn't need to marry to have a home, nor is she complete only when loved by someone. Where I stand is my territory. What I hold on to is my home. I took back the Shin family, not to prove I was nobler than anyone else, but to tell myself I can love, but I can never lose myself again.